Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody, and welcome inside another brand new Our Little Yankees podcast. And I guess you could say, folks, boys, girls, we're back to square one because the New York Yankees, when we thought had risen above us having the podcast that would be an absolute butcher job of them, they just decided they loved it too much. As always, I'm Julian Coltree. We're joined by Josh Levin and Eric Ray Sepulveda. And boys, we don't even really need to wait. We have to get right into it because between the injury news that happened over the course of the last 7 days since we last recorded, the Yankees' utter ineptitude on offense, which has really been a season-wide thing, and then, of course, the brand spanking new results of getting swept by the Detroit Tigers and then going into today's game, a must-win game against the Tampa Bay Rays. They pretty much let us down in every single facet.
Yeah, that's pretty much how you sum it up. I mean, it's Memorial Day, guys. Tomorrow is June. We are not in the early going of the season anymore, and this team looks like what it looked like in April. And what's to say that this won't continue? I don't know.
Yeah. I honestly don't know where to start, man. I mean, like I was telling you guys, and I'll tell everyone here, I didn't even watch the game today. I maybe watched 2 at-bats because I literally have no energy. When you get swept by the Detroit Tigers, well, we'll go by game, but getting swept by the Detroit Tigers is pathetic in its own right. I mean, what is that? And then today, these division games that you continue to lose, continue to get clowned by the Rays, but it's just not that. It's just, who would have thought, guys, that the pitching would not be the issue, right? We were so concerned about the rotation going into the season that the rotation has actually kept us in games, but 3-0 games, 2-0 games feels like 20-0, 25-0. It's just pathetic and miserable, and just I can't do it anymore. It's just that's why I didn't watch the game today, because I didn't want to get angry. But here I am getting angry. And you know why I'm also angry? Because Aaron Boone, after the game, says the same shit that he keeps saying. We're just going to keep pouring in game plans, making subtle adjustments. We'll keep working at it. Working at what? Nothing's working. I'm sorry for yelling, but that's what I have to do because I'm losing it. Thank you.
Yeah, man. Do it, baby. Do it. Do your thing.
This past week, they unveiled the quote-unquote Pulse of the People Award nominees. Well, Eric Ray Sepulveda is going to be the Pulse of the People today, because after a long, frustrating week that really came on the heels of what probably was the best week of the season.
Yeah.
And we talked about that on the last pod.
We're happy.
The Yankees exploded. Yeah, we were. I sat in this chair. I was hyped up. We talked Kluber's no-hitter. We talked the triple play. We talked the gigantic weekend series sweep of the Chicago White Sox. And then literally, if you could take the complete 180 of that, literally down to the T, it was a week after the biggest sweep of the 2021 Yankee season. You had them get swept by another American League Central opponent, so the opposite of the White Sox, in every facet, because they are, I guess you could make the case, the worst team in baseball. I mean, Baltimore's pretty bad too, but it is that. And that was the equivalent. But we have a lot to talk about in terms of this week. So this is how we're going to do this, boys. We are going to kind of go day by day and momentary reaction by momentary reaction, because last week started and felt like a loss from the moment, as we used to say, they stepped onto the field, but it was with that first game against the Toronto Blue Jays. They were in town. Yankees looked at that schedule as saying themselves, we got Toronto, then Detroit, and then the biggest stretch. And the first thing we saw, Corey Kluber come out, not look as sharp as he did in the no-hitter his previous start, and then he leaves with an injury. And that was the downhill moment from there.
Yeah, and it feels like ever since that happened, they have completely fallen apart. Not to say that that's the reason why, but it sort of was the jumping off point of the week for this team. And it's been completely downhill since then. I don't even know what to say. You know, they have trouble beating Toronto this year. They've had trouble beating them even last year. So I wasn't really shocked. They were coming off a 6-game winning streak, so I wasn't shocked that they lost that opening game in the series. But between the injury to Kluber and then the rain out the next night, it feels like they have just not been able to get their footing underneath them since that incredible week last week. It all started with that injury, and it's just I don't even know. I don't even know what to say. I really don't know what to say. I'm not shocked by the Kluber injury news. What could you expect from a guy who's missed 2 seasons, who's in his late 30s?
And the shoulder injury is what he had last time.
Exactly. So it's not really a surprise. I feel like the Yankees probably knew that this was coming at some point. They were just probably hoping to avoid a serious season-ending injury like he had last year. But it's just sort of
out for the record. It doesn't look like they even know what his injury is.
He's getting a second and third opinion. That doesn't sound good.
That sounds terrible.
They already want a third opinion.
They want a third opinion before they have a second opinion. It sounds like a mess. It sounds like in a few days we're about to get some news that it's worse than they initially let on.
And for the record, not to detour too much, but I did say to both of you guys, and I stand by it, I bet you that no-hitter goes down as his last real start. Because if he has another crippling shoulder injury, for a guy who has now missed, that would be 3 years with injury, I don't think you see a guy like that try to make a comeback again. But regardless, after that moment, we get more injury news, and then we go into the doubleheader. The injury news that Aaron Hicks is completely done for the year, that he's going to get the sheath surgery, which means you won't see him this year. And, of course, going into everything with the doubleheader, knowing you needed to salvage the game, it was not a good back-to-back days. As Josh said, that rain out being a harbinger and another opportunity for them to try and beat a team that they haven't done against. And they were only able to salvage that second because of some good timely hitting.
It's just bad vibes, with the injury news and just the bad play, the sloppy play on defense that has returned. It's just bad vibes. And to be honest with you, I don't even remember how they won the one game in the Toronto series, the one game they've won of late. I don't remember. I don't even remember.
It was the Judge tie up, and then I think Gary had a double.
Oh, it was the Gary homer.
Because Bichette that was it.
The Gary homer that put him ahead. That was a nice game.
I remember Bichette pimped the shit out of the home run. Yeah, that made it 2-0. Then
and then Judge tied the game 3-3, and then Sanchez home run. They tacked on another one after that. It was nice to see some homers. That was cool. Yeah. Gary's been hitting the ball a little bit better the last week or so that's nice.
So naturally they didn't play him today.
But yeah, exactly. So I'm not taking anything. I'm not taking anything out of that win because, to be honest, the homers that helped them win that game are the aberration. They're not the norm for what this team does offensively this year. So I take nothing from that. It was good in the moment, I guess, because it snapped a mini 3-game skid, but a 2-game skid. But who cares? Who cares?
Also, like people were saying, like, yeah, Yankees were hot at one point. They swept the White Sox, right? They were like top teams in the American League, AL Central leading. But does that say more about, like, I feel like the Yankees always handle the AL Central or whatever, you know what I mean? And does that say more about, like, the White Sox or us? Like, first of all, again, when you lose to the Tigers, that's just in its own right pathetic. But, like, the Yankees have to win the division games. And the only team that they beat in this division is the Baltimore Orioles. And that's not going to make you a consistent good team. And that's not going to make you win the division or even a playoff team because, guys, the Blue Jays are good. The Red Sox are not supposed to be good, but it looks like they're here to stay. The Red Sox offense their team looks a lot better. The Rays, I mean, what is this? Their 15th out of
16 out of 17.
16 out of 17. I mean, we talked about, like, I think the Rays struggled out of the gate, but then they went on like a 11-game winning streak and they continue to win. That's the thing, man. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, we could be here in 3 weeks and the Yankees could get it going again, but they're going to continue, in my opinion, to revert. That's a bad team when it's just, like, not consistent. I think they're on pace. I saw on Twitter, like, right now they're on pace to win like 87 games or some shit. Like, it's just the issues are not going away. That's the problem. The main problem is the offense, and some changes have to be made, but what exactly are the changes? Another thing, it's like, why are they not calling up Giddens? Why are they not calling up Florio something, or Chris Gittens. Like, why is Mike Ford still on this team? Like, why? I mean, they're not playing him, but why is he still on the bench? Like, yes, Gittens might not work, right?
Yeah.
But you gotta just try something here. Like,
yeah, man.
what are they doing? I just don't understand what's the point of just keeping the same players, same team out there that's not getting the job done.
The sense that I'm getting is that it's sort of like everyone's just apathetic. I feel like the front office is apathetic. I feel like the manager is apathetic. I feel like the players are apathetic. And I'm not saying that the players aren't trying. We know they're trying, but I don't think they are given the talk from the guys above them in terms of Boone and Cashman of, we have to start playing better because we're digging ourselves a hole and we have these division games coming up. E-Ray, you said it with Gittens. What is working right now on the major league roster that is preventing that guy from getting a chance? We're not going to sit here and tell you that he's about to become the next Luke Voigt and he's going to turn their season around. But when your option is a guy who used to play third base, who's now playing left field, who they're throwing in center field in pregame warmups, now they're starting him at first in Miguel Andujar because they have nobody else. And the other option is Mike fucking Ford, who hasn't been good in 2 years. Why is Gittens not getting a chance? It can't be worse. If it's worse, if they think it's going to be worse, then that's an indictment on them. That means they're not doing their jobs well enough in terms of player development and player evaluation and the players that they bring into this organization. This isn't good enough. And it starts at the top. It's easy, of course, to blame the players because they're the ones who are going out there and not performing. But it starts at the top. It's their job to put these players in a position to succeed. They have not done so. They have the same injury issues every single season, and they do nothing about it. The depth is pathetic. We said it was pathetic in October. We said it was pathetic in November, December, January, February, March, April, and again here in May. And we'll say it tomorrow in June. It's not good enough, and it has to change. I don't know when the final straw is for them to decide. Let's call up Chris Gittens. Hey, let's try Florio too. I don't know what it's going to take. But if it's worse, if it has to get worse than this for that to happen, then shame on them.
The Yankees have done something that I feel like is actually kind of incredibly hard with the New York Yankees, and that is they've become mediocre and uninteresting and uninspired. And for a team that, when I tell you they have potentially the best pitcher in baseball in Garrett Cole, Aaron Judge is superstar of the game, Giancarlo Stanton, a former MVP, you have young stars like Gleyber Torres and Miguel Andujar and great bullpen pitchers like Aroldis Chapman. You would say to yourself, damn, this is one of the best teams in baseball and sure as shit, one of the most exciting teams in baseball. And they're none of that. We're at the point now where, let's be honest, for you, me, and E-Ray, Josh, or, whoever it is, whatever combination of it, you have a hard time getting yourself up to even watch the game. E-Ray said today he didn't want to watch the game.
I did the same thing yesterday.
Yeah. And you say to yourself, why? And it's because it's uninspired, uninteresting, uneventful baseball. The Yankees, who should have pulverized the Detroit Tigers this weekend, had 3 games that weren't just bad. They were just they could have not have happened. They're just going to give me a week off of. I essentially had a weekend off of baseball because it was 3 uninspired, uneventful losses where the offense didn't hit. They said today on the game, first time in American League history that a team struck out 12 times and scored 2 or less runs in 3 straight games. American League has been around for how long?
I'm surprised
100 plus years.
I'm surprised they didn't do that already earlier in the season, to be honest with you.
And that just tells you how bad the New York Yankees offense is. This weekend was boring. It was uninspired. And unless you are diehards like us, and we're diehards, you had a hard time watching it. And even then, the diehards found other stuff to do.
I just needed a break.
I get NBA playoffs and all that stuff is happening, and there are other things going on in the city. But just because you think you subscribe to the thought process that don't do anything exciting because people might not be able to see it right now because there's other stuff going on, the Yankees aren't doing anything. They might as well not play.
Yeah. I mean,
sorry, Josh.
No, go ahead, E-Ray. Go ahead.
I just want to read you guys probably saw this article from Lindsay Adler what it was a good article if you haven't. Like
The Athletic.
list all the okay. So there's a couple of stats here that she lists that I just want to read out real quick about the Yankees offense that you were talking about. So as you know, 3 runs or fewer in 29 of the 53 games this season. That might have been at before today, actually. But a 45% ground ball rate, 6th highest in the MLB. They run into 26 outs on bases, 5 more than any other team in MLB. 52 double plays, I think, today.
Yeah,
DJ
52.
LeMahieu grounded in his 52nd double play, most in the MLB. Only 11.6% of their base runners have scored, tied with the Mets for the 2nd worst in the MLB. Their 6.72 OPS with runners in scoring position, 5th worst in the MLB. They've hit 43 home runs with the bases empty.
44 now, because
44, with today with Andujar. Yeah, but I think the Yes Network too yesterday when they went. So these are like as a team, but I think in yesterday's game, they were showing every player the graphic, and every player's graphic had a stat where they were like statistically in the worst category offensively in baseball. It's like an overall team slump, an individual team slump. It's just this offense, man. And we could like go name by name. I mean, Aaron Judge has been having a pretty good season. Stanton has looked awful so far since I know Jules was saying maybe he's hurt still. Maybe he needed a rehab assignment. But
they definitely didn't give him that. I mean, but you want to risk it.
Yeah.
But
and
you
DJ LeMahieu too is struggling too.
You want to know,
You know what it is? It's crazy. And Josh, you said this earlier. They don't hit home runs. Every big moment that they've had this year, I think we can go out there and say was probably a big home run. And they just don't hit them enough. I would give my right arm to go back to them striking out 3 times in an inning and hitting homers rather than see these double plays, man.
Yeah. I mean,
they're unbelievable. They kill every inning.
You want more of these stats? They've scored 2 or fewer in 9 of their last 12 games. That's the first time the Yankees have done that since 1971. That was a season in which they went 82-80, and those were, the lean years back in the late 60s and the early 70s where they didn't win anything. We're talking about, one of the worst offenses the Yankees have had in 50 years or so. And,
which is impressive considering who was in the lineup in 2013.
And it's impressive when, in the worst way possible, when you look at the names that are in the current lineup right now. Aaron Judge, Giancarlo Stanton, Gio Urshela, Gleyber Torres, DJ LeMahieu. Those are 5 guys right there who are all-stars in any given season. Gio Urshela hasn't been, but he's sort of approached that level of play in recent seasons. And I'm looking at their team stat page right now on Baseball Reference. It's July, for all intents and purposes, it's June 1st. Some of these numbers, let's go through every single player at the positions, the guys who have played the most games at each position. Gary Sanchez hitting 202. Mike Ford has played the most games at first base this year, hitting 140. Rougned Odor is hitting 189. Gleyber Torres is hitting 265 with 2 home runs and a 689 OPS. Gio Urshela is hitting 264 with a 316 on base percentage. Clint Frazier, 182. Aaron Hicks was hitting 194 when his season ended. Aaron Judge, he's your bright spot, 301, 13 homers, 29 RBIs. Stanton has 9 home runs. Okay, we'll like that. And then you have LeMahieu hitting 267, hitting for no power. Brett Gardner hitting 196 in 42 games with 0 home runs and 3 runs batted in. That's your guy who's playing center field every day. He has no home runs and 3 RBIs in 42 games, hitting below 200. And this is the shit that they're putting on the field. And they're trying to tell us that it's okay. Well, I disagree because it's not okay. This is not okay.
You know what's also not okay? Me wanting to get excited for someone like Chris Gaines.
Yeah.
That's also not okay. Remember?
A career minor leaguer.
Who retired. We have to keep saying that. We had a player retire because he was so fucking bad. We were rooting for Mike Ford because he couldn't get worse. Well, yeah, Mike Ford has been pretty bad. We probably expected that. But yeah, we still want to give, we got to switch something up here. Someone needs to be held accountable. They're not going to fire anyone. They're just not. That's not what the Yankees do. They're going to, Aaron Boone's going to continue to be the coach. Marcus Thames is going to continue to be the hitting coach. They're going to try to figure it out this way. We have $5 million in the luxury, right? Or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't know. They're going to have to try to figure something out with that $5 million. This cannot be the team at the deadline. It cannot be moving forward. I don't know if they're going to. The thing is, guys, like I know I said last week, we'll see what happens. And we have to see what happens with the Rays series and the Red Sox series. But like, I don't know, guys. I'm just like, my brain's crashing because I'm just getting something.
Well, you want to talk about something else, and you want to put blame on the front office, which I completely agree with. I mean, I felt that way, a month ago or whatever it was, 5 weeks ago when we were ripping them apart the last time. I don't think that, and we already said it because we're asking, like, what is it going to take for Gittins to get a chance and for Florial to get a chance? I don't think that they they don't care about these regular season games. They don't care. And I don't really understand why. It seems to me like they just think that we just got to skate through this and everything will shake out in the end because they run the simulations on their computers before the season starts that says, at best we'll win this many games and at worst we'll still win enough to be a playoff team. The game is played on the field in real life. They're doing stuff that makes no sense at all. Giancarlo Stanton comes off the IL on Friday. He goes 0 for 5 with 4 strikeouts, DHing. Game 2 of the Detroit series, he doesn't play. Why? He didn't run. He didn't have to do anything. He struck out 4 times. Why does he need a day off? Gio Urshela gets a day off in the same game as well. So again, you have a lineup that is desperate for offense, and you're removing 2 of your best players and your best threats from the lineup after a game in which, you lost the day before, 2-1, by the way, with your ace on the mound. Look at the pitchers that pitched over the weekend for them. Mike King, Albert Abreu, Davey Garcia, Nick Nelson, Nestor Cortez. Those aren't pitchers that you throw in games that you realistically think you have a chance to win. And at the time, at least game 1, those games were close at one point in time before, yesterday it got out of hand a little bit after the errors. Those aren't pitchers you're putting in close games. They also ended game 1 with Justin Wilson on the mound, who goes on the IL after the game. And then Boone says, yeah, we knew for a while he was hurt. So why is he in the game? Why is he in the game? Why is he on the team? Put him on the IL. He never pitches anyway. He doesn't pitch in big moments until he does. And then he blows it. And all of a sudden, now we got to put him on the IL. So is he really hurt or is he not hurt? Either way, put him on the IL, call somebody else up who can just sit there and do nothing because that's what he does most of the time. These are not decisions that winning teams and organizations make. They skate through this like it doesn't matter. And I guarantee you before the Detroit series started, they mapped this out. They said, we're not going to play Stanton and Urshela in game 2. We're going to throw these pitchers on these days because they have, bullets to burn. And we think we'll win game 1 with Cole on the mound and we'll find a way to squeak out one of the other 2 so we can win the series. But you lost game 1 with Cole on the mound. You scored 2 runs in that game? Yeah. 2 runs in that game, one of which was because the catcher dropped a pitch.
Yeah, they were only going to win that game because
Judge was on third because he was the last guy out in the 9th inning. So it was a phantom runner on a run that you didn't really do anything to earn. It's just like at some point, I get that you have to, go in with a plan, but at some point you have to deviate from the plan when it's not working. And this is not working and it hasn't worked. And this whole attitude of, Detroit will win those games. We just got to worry about Tampa and Boston. We want to make sure that we have our best pitchers lined up.
Right?
It doesn't work. You have to focus on the games that are in front of you on the schedule. Detroit games are games that you have to win. Those are games where you should be saying, let's put our best foot forward and let's absolutely destroy this team, get 3 wins this weekend and come into the next series hot, especially after you blew that Toronto series. It's just, it's frustrating. It makes us angry. And it doesn't work. And we all know it doesn't work. And yet they still continue to do it. And as long as it takes for Chris Gittins to get a chance to come up here, it's going to continue like this. And again, Gittins isn't the savior, but he's a sign of them saying this isn't working and we have to try something else.
It is an inexcusable level of not giving a fuck. It's an inexcusable level of it, but it extends from the top down from every single position of this team. Because you said it earlier, Josh, and we've talked about this from the day that we started this podcast, the day that they lost to Tampa Bay last year in the American League Division Series. Sure up, the goddamn bench. Shore up the bench so that when the injuries come, which they do every damn year with this core, you're not stuck with a below average player playing a major position for you on this team. And guess what? We're on May 31st, and this morning they were tweeting about how Miguel Andujar was playing center field. This is a guy who is a third baseman 3 years ago, is now getting reps to be a center fielder because your center fielder who's 38 can't hit anymore.
And he can't play every day because he's too old.
Can't play every day because he's 38. Yep. And then you have the second baseman who wasn't on your team 2 months ago now doing reps as your backup shortstop, even though he's a second baseman. And all of it could have been handled if, rather than holding themselves to this stupid luxury tax, they gave themselves a tiny bit of wiggle room.
Yeah.
They did just enough wiggle room to get Corey Kluber in there. So why couldn't you have gotten a competent outfielder? Why could you not have signed, and we use this name all the time, but Michael Brantley? Then you could have him playing center field, who's a competent hitting lefty who plays outfield and is not Brett Gardner. Or go out there and get a good backup shortstop. So that way, because Rougned Odor is fine and he's exciting and he adds a little spark, but he's not your savior at second base when he's batting 180. You could have somebody out there competent. And it goes all the way down. That's why I said it's an inexcusable level of not giving a fuck, because it's them not giving a fuck about the roster makeup. It's Boone not giving a fuck about doing anything to switch the lineup when it really matters. It's the analytics and the nerds and the front office not giving a fuck about deviating from their system-long simulation and algorithm. And it's the players not giving a fuck when it comes to just being able to competently deviate from what they're being told when they know it's stupid.
Yeah, I mean, the game plans don't work. Boone says this game plan stuff. These guys are missing hittable pitches and swinging at pitches that aren't hittable. What's the game plan? Whatever game plan, it's not working. It doesn't work.
Like Rich Hill today. Yeah, I didn't watch the game, but I know what he fucking throws. The Yankees, these.
And you knew he was going to dominate them.
I know. It's like low 90-mile-per-hour fastballs down the plate, man. Like, I don't understand how this team is just not prepared to hit these balls. Look, even in this Lindsay Adler article, Dan Dickerson, the Tigers radio play-by-play announcer, called the New York Yankees lineup a very pitchable lineup. If a radio broadcaster sees that, and we see that
from Detroit, the worst team in the league.
The worst team in the league. What do you think? The great analytic heads with the Tampa Bay Rays, no wonder why they fucking kill us every game. Because they look, even to I did listen on the radio a little bit, so I did, because I was I went home, and in that moment I think the Rays were shifting, and I think Gleyber Torres was up, and it was a 3-2 count, and no 3-1 count. He was on the second base side, but 3-2 he went back to third, and then right away, they laughed because Gleyber hit a ground ball right to third to Brandon Lowe, and they're like, well, the scouting and analytics worked there. But anyway, the Rays, when you have a very pitchable lineup like the Yankees and their offense is so inept and stuff like that, the better teams like the Rays, like the Red Sox this season, even the Blue Jays guys are better and more. I wouldn't say right now they're better than us because they beat us one-on-one.
Well, they're definitely more
fun.
But
I want
to more fun. I wouldn't say better, but they're better when they face us right now.
To play off your point, E-Ray, I want to say that I think, and I noticed this today while I was watching the game because I was sitting there and seeing what was going on. Offensively, the Yankees just don't have an identity. They're supposed to be the strikeout home run team, but they don't do that anymore. And the Rays, they're an all-around team. They're one of the few teams in the league that uses their speed, that swipes bags, that does fundamentally sound stuff on the base paths. Yankees don't run the base running well, and they're slow as shit, so they're not.
That's another problem. Team. Yeah,
yep. And they're also supposed to be a team that draws walks and makes the pitchers work to get the outs. And looking at some of these on base percentages,
they don't do that either.
No,
and
but
that's
even
what
when
it is.
Walk,
They are pitchable because outside of Aaron Judge, most of the guys there swing at garbage. Their lefties are not good at all. So you can't expect them to get any power or production from the left-hand side of the plate. If you throw a lefty out there against them, you can get all the righties out.
Well, Michael Kay was saying late in the game today, he was talking about this. He was saying Tampa Bay's bullpen, they don't even have lefties, and when when they face the Yankees, they don't use lefties because the entire lineup's right-handed. Besides a couple lefties that are they're not
Good.
murderers row. You're not confusing them with Lou Gehrig here and Babe Ruth. We're talking about Rougned Odor and Brett Gardner, who combined have 5 home runs and 16 RBIs. I mean, we're not talking about all-star level players here. They're too easy to pitch to. They're constructed poorly, which we've been saying for months. Occasionally, they will have they'll run off a good string of games, which, they did for the most part this month. They did play very well in May for the most part up until the last week. But like you guys are saying, this isn't a team that I don't think anybody is scared to face anymore. There was a time when that was the case.
Doesn't that lead to what they truly are at the end of the day, and something that every journalist seems to tweet about? Well, not just broke, but mediocre. Think of the last 150 games that they've played going back to 2020, and you can say all you want that the 2020 season didn't matter, but that was still 60 games worth of at-bats to demonstrate who, for the most part, 90% of this team was. Gio was on the team last year. Glaber was on the team last year. Judge, Giancarlo, Gary, everybody outside of Odor was essentially on this team last year. We knew sure as shit Mike King was on the team last year. We all saw what he did last year. He fucking stunk. So over the last 100 games, 150 games, whatever you want to say, they have been mediocre. They haven't been bad. They have not been great. They've been 500.
Yeah.
Which is just good enough to not be trash.
Which is a terrible place to be.
Especially for a team of this magnitude with this supposedly good core.
And this payroll. You can't be mediocre with this guy. Again, we're not calling the Yankees cheap. We're just saying that they.
You did call them broke, though.
No, I said I didn't say it. I said a joke. Sorry. You heard broke. But yeah, I don't know, man.
It's an incredibly frustrating feeling because more than anything, to see them not get up today after those 3 games, you go back to what we talked about like 5 weeks ago when we buried them, in the middle of the pod. Where's like the heart, right?
Where are the savages of the box? Remember that? Where are they?
Yeah.
Where are those? They're not savages in the box. I don't know what they are in the box. They're just pansies in the box. I don't know. I couldn't think of another word.
But you're right, because like all the identity, all the fight, all the bull crap on this team, you don't really see. And then rather than overcoming it when you do see it, take Glaber losing his shit yesterday after the errors. Exactly. He just came out today and made another error and wasn't able to do anything offensively. And the Yankees continue to get in their own head. There's a lack of resiliency from what you can see right now by the guys who are on this team. And a lot of people, joked about the Giancarlo Stanton sweatshirt thing when Craig Carton brought that up like a few weeks ago of him going like 0 for 5 and then putting the sweatshirt on. But it does kind of feel like sometimes that's that vibe. That it's just like we're going through the motions through everybody on the team, everybody in the clubhouse. Boone coming out today to say his little 2 cents about, oh, well, we got good at bats and, the analytics not bringing anybody up. And then Cashman coming out and say, we're going to work our way around it. And then they do for 6 games and then they go right back and they fluctuate. But that's uninspiring and middle of the road mediocre baseball.
I think Sweeney Murdy tweeted when they win, they look like they'll win every game, and then right. And then when they lose, they look like they're going to just keep losing every game. The thing is with this team though is like they're mediocre. Look, listen, this team might get going but that's the thing about a mediocre team though. Like you're bad, then you're good, then you're bad, then you're good. And look, I want to say here, I still think they should make the playoffs. I think that's just my sanity because if they don't make the playoffs, then it's really going to be.
And the rest of the American League is beatable outside of Tampa Bay. And
but Boston. the thing is though, Boston is good this year, which has thrown a wrinkle into our plans. Because I looked at the standings. Yeah, it's May. There's but they say
Well, now it's June in a day.
Oh,
So.
you're June. You are who you are by this time, right?
Yeah.
You're kind of setting the tone. I looked at the standings, like if the Rays continue to be good and the Red Sox or whatever, yeah, one of the Rays or Red Sox will get the division, but then we have to fight against the Astros and the A's for that second wild spot. But that's down the line, whatever.
Even Cleveland too. They're only
Cleveland got hot too.
Behind
Yeah,
the White
so
Sox.
it's not going to be easy. But I'm saying, like, if we do happen to make the playoffs again, it's just like, which team do you expect to show up? I expect the same team we see there every damn October and every damn regular season where this offense doesn't show up against better pitching. That's just who I think. Like, it's just the makeup and the construction of this team doesn't make me believe that they are a World Series team. And we're not just doing an instant reaction here, like from this losing to the Detroit Tigers. Like you said, Jules and Josh, we're seeing how they were in this whole span of like last year, 2020 to this year. This is just a mediocre team, an 80-win team that might make the playoffs and then just lose in the fucking first round. And here we are once again. I don't want to say it, but we, as a core, I don't know. Are they not?
The thing is, too, you just mentioned the playoffs. Who's to say the rotation's as good as it was last week? They've now lost one pitcher to injury. Bringing up Devi, and he hasn't looked that good this year.
What if they come down to earth? Then we have a bad offense, and our pitching is getting shelled again, and then we're just a shit team, which we are right now. But we're shit. We're mediocre. We're not happy.
And the thing is, too, like they definitely have a bunch of needs that they need to address during the season. As far as like shoring up this roster. Because, they need a center fielder, and they don't grow on trees. They need a left fielder. They're going to need another starting pitcher, I'm going to assume, or at least want one. You can make the case that they probably need another, infielder because, like, do we really need to see Rougned Odor anymore? I know he's gotten some big hits, but, like, his numbers are terrible. He strikes out.
I think he's going to stay.
Oh, of course he's going to stay.
They should sign a damn first baseman so that way they could have DJ LeMahieu play second base where he's fucking supposed to.
Yeah. I mean, that's another thing too. It's like they play.
And we haven't even discussed that Luke Voigt went on the IL this week. That's how much stuff has gotten wrapped into this. And now they have Mike Ford here for the foreseeable future because of that.
Right.
Other than the Gittins thing.
And they play. That's the thing too. Is like you mentioned the DJ thing. Like this guy's a Gold Glove second baseman, one of the best defensive second basemen in the game. Why are we intentionally not playing this guy at his proper position? You wouldn't take a Gold Glove player from another position and intentionally not play them at their top position for
Gold
like
Glove
most
catcher and just put him at first base too.
Yeah, like Mike Ford has played the most games at first this year, but Rougned Odor has played the most games at second, and Gio obviously has played the most games at third, which means DJ is a player who doesn't really have a position. He doesn't have a home this year in terms of a position. He's played first.
He kind of didn't have it home when he got signed up.
No, he was supposed to be a backup, but like he also played like an MVP for 2 years. And then they make a long-term commitment, and we know how good he is defensively at second. You would think that, you just leave that guy where he is,
Yeah.
Especially when
we say it all the time. How much do you think these guys playing out of position fucks with them? Probably a lot.
It's possible. It's possible. I mean, I'm not going to rule that out. I think LeMahieu, he played out of position the last 2 seasons and he played great. And now this year he's really been bad, in my opinion.
But didn't he play mostly at second base like when he first came up?
No, because 2019, Glaber was playing a lot of second, and he got moved around a bunch. And so I'm not going to say that the playing out of position is what is, causing his poor season. I think there's a lot of different things going on. I think the baseball has something to do with it because his power has been completely sapped. And I also think, there's other stuff that we don't see that is going on too, in terms of like, which we see from every other player is the decisions on what they're swinging at and the fact that they're driving the ball into the ground. It's a team-wide issue. It's sort of, DJ has sort of been bailed out by the fact that everyone has struggled this year besides a couple guys. So
I did see in that Lindsay Adler article that they talked about the launch angle for the Yankees, which obviously is the big,
But it hasn't been
talking
good,
point
though,
with everything
right?
has not been good. Well, that's what it was going to be. Obviously, the movement is with launch angle and all this garbage, but for the Yankees, even that is not that good for them this year. So, offensively, they're just going to keep struggling, I guess.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. It's not going to change because why would it all of a sudden flip the switch? And that's what bothers me is that they say, we'll be okay. We just got to play through it. It's like, well, how long is it supposed to take? They've played almost 60 games so far this year. Is it supposed to take this long for it to get clicking? Yeah. I understand, in the beginning of the season, some guys are going to start off hot. Some guys aren't. Giancarlo Stanton started off well. Aaron Judge started off well. Gio Urshela started off playing great. Everybody else pretty much struggled. I get that happens, but it's been like this for April, May, across the entire roster, essentially. Like it's clearly not just going to click.
Yeah, I see some, like, most of Yankees Twitter, I think, is like us, where they're, reprimanding them and like saying like, what the hell's going on here? But I still see some positive people, and it's just like, I don't know, like they in the same concept where it's like, oh, I believe in this offense. They're too good not to keep this going. Yeah, I get that, but like, what has made you change? Like you said, what has made you change that opinion though? Like the offense has, they've won. I think they won 17 games in May. Like they had a lot better May than April because of after Cashman talked and like they beat I think the first 3 weeks, 2-3 weeks, they won all those games. They swept the White Sox and stuff like that. But man, it's like the offense has still been
play turned around. But like that's the problem. That's what we said. A team that's up and down has those sort of things.
Yeah.
And look, I think you can be positive. There are positives there. Their big hitters are still healthy, which means that in theory they could, and I knock on some wood next to me, they could turn it around if they continue to be in the lineup. They're not striking out as much as they used to, I guess. That's another positive.
Yeah, they just keep getting more outs on them.
But, the problem is on top of that they are hitting into the major league most double plays. So that is a trend with this team. And when they are on base, they make the most dumb moves of all time. Their base running is atrocious. And they run themselves out of runs. So offensively, until they get that figured out, and they have not figured that out for the entire first 2 months of this year, they're not going to score. I mean, look at yesterday with the Gary Sanchez shit. And then take that away, all the amount of times that they've gotten thrown out and all this sort of stuff. They don't play good. So they hurt themselves offensively as much as anybody else.
Yeah. And when you're struggling as much as they've been struggling this year offensively, those are not the mistakes that you can afford to make. This isn't a team that goes, first to home.
They tried. We saw one of the worst sends in history. Maybe.
Yep, they're not even a team that really goes first to third. They're a station to station team, which is okay. That's how they're built. But if you're gonna be that way, if
you're built blasting homers, and they're fucking not.
Yeah, and then if you're not gonna be blasting home runs, when you get on base, you have to be smart about when you should or shouldn't take the extra base or attempt to take the extra base. Sometimes it pays to be aggressive. Sometimes you have to force the issue, make the defense make a play. But there's situations where it's like a lot of times you look at the play that just unfolded in front of you on the TV and you say out loud, like, what the hell just happened there? And those are not the kinds of mistakes that a team like this can afford to make. It's the same thing with the defense. Like, they can't be sloppy and give teams extra outs and extra runs because those are holes that they can't dig themselves out of. And even when they were playing well, in the beginning and middle of this month, they were still winning low scoring games. They were winning, games a lot, 3-1, 4-1. It feels like a miracle when they get over 3 runs in a game. Right. But at the time they were playing sound, fundamental baseball. The defense was good. The pitching obviously was good, and they were getting timely hits. And now, they were 0 for 20 at one point over the weekend with runners in scoring position. The timely hits have disappeared. How many times do we see the bases loaded and a ground double play happens? And, it's just stuff like this. It's it's all come back from where it was
Yeah.
mid-April, and it's happening again. And it just that's what you guys have been saying. It's like it's a yo-yo, and that's not how you can't be successful that way. You can't
And
have
we're on the strength.
And
Yeah.
what alarms me about it too is like, where's the mental fortitude to like overcome? And I don't mean this in like a condescending way, but like to overcome what was a hard week when a week before that you were flying high. You know, this doesn't even seem like the same team that went out there and had that huge comeback against Houston, you know, which was, I don't know, 3 weeks ago. And I get it, the baseball season is like super long and like you have your ups and downs, but for a team that's just consistently kind of middle of the road, which is what this team has been over the last 150 games, you know, there's not much to get up for. Anyway, to keep things on track, and I know we've done a lot of ranting and raving and you know, jumping around, and I love that. As we kind of like muddle through and start to wrap things up here, guys, I want to look ahead because this is going to be the biggest next 6 days of the New York Yankee season. You have to salvage the rest of this series against the Tampa Bay Rays, a team that's leading the division right now. You had a game Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, so 3 more games left. And then you have Boston, first time you get to see them this weekend. So, look, obviously it goes without saying you have to win those games. But now that it's June, I guess I kind of want to say, what do you think the Yankees can do to win these games?
I think they have to go back to whatever they were doing before this recent skid. I mean, play better. That's just it.
Well,
just play better. Like, just play better. I don't know how else to put it. I'll say this: the guys that they have to rely on in the lineup, which, you know, Judge, Stanton, Glaber, Gio, and DJ, those guys have to get the job done, because if they don't, probably nobody else will. So
I'll even say Gary's been swinging well too. So
yeah,
I see Gary can.
So let's,
be in
and
the
that's
lineup.
the thing too with the catching situation. I think we've kind of swung back now to Gary. It's like, and I'm fine with this. It's a day-to-day, week-to-week sort of thing. You just play who's ever hot. Play who's ever.
And Gary was hot, and he didn't play today, which again is a failing of the front office.
And we get that Higgy
Clint
will
Frazier,
catch,
who also didn't play, who has been hitting a bat well. So, you know.
And we get that Higgy will catch Cole, which is fine. But let's just, you know, keep going with the hot hand at that position. But that's what I'll say. Just play better. And the guys that they rely on to produce have to produce. And that's the bottom line.
It's gonna, like I was gonna say too, like it's the same thing with Andujar, right? He's gonna keep playing because, like you said, all the statistics for like Gardner and Frazier, like the outfield. Andujar, if he's hitting, he's gonna be in there, whether it's in left field or if it's at first base. So Andujar is he's our hottest hitter right now. And what the Yankees need to do, I'm gonna say, I want to see some home runs, actually. I know we used to complain about them not just hitting home runs. I know they hit one today, but let's hit some home runs with people on base. Maybe get a walk, hit a dinger, not get a walk, hit a double play. Let's get a walk, hit a fucking home run. How about that? Maybe some 2-run shots, some 3-run shots. I want to see the Bronx Bombers, because they're not here. And I don't know where they are, but they're not here. And they probably won't be here this week anyway, because I'm negative.
There you go. You guys have E-Ray so messed up, New York Yankees, that he had opportunities multiple times to go to games at the stadium over the next couple of days. And he doesn't want to go.
I don't want to go. And that's not even me being a bad fan. I just have no energy. Like I said it again, like if they don't care, why should I care? And I'm not talking about the players. I'm talking about like front office, the management, like the way this
Yankees.
The Yankees. I'm talking overall. I'll be back. I'll be at the game. I just need a break right now. I need a time away. I'm going to the Yankee game in Philly, but now I'm mostly going out to hang out with my friends.
Going to go see the best team in the East while you're down.
I'm going to see the Phillies. I don't want to see the fucking piece of shit Yankees, but hopefully by that's on June 11th or something. Hopefully by then, I mean, the Yankees are playing a little bit better, but we'll see.
But if they are, and that I think is a big theme of our podcast today, even if they are better at that point, until they start to show telltale signs of them being right, it's just going to be a yo-yo of mediocrity.
Look, they won every series before the Toronto Blue Jays series. They won every series, since April 18th, so that's great.
But when you can't get swept by the Detroit Tigers. You just can't. You can't be a World Series team and get swept by the Tigers. You just can't.
Yeah.
And you got to win division games.
And
How much does it remind you of 2 seasons ago when they lost all those games, or 3 seasons ago, whatever it was, to
2018.
Baltimore and
Oh, God.
Detroit,
The worst
and
100
all
win
these
team
teams.
in history.
That's what I was going to say is that they're not in a division where they have the luxury of having 2 bottom feeders that they can just pounce on. They have one bad team in their division, and then the rest of the teams are teams that are trying to make the playoffs.
Insane. The AL East is the best division of baseball.
And when you have games against a team like Detroit, or when you have games against a team like Toronto, who, while they are good, they are still, everyone's mind, I guess maybe not realistically, but they're still a notch below, and they're below you in the standings, and you have the games at home. Those are series that you have to win because you don't have the luxury of being able to beat up on, the Twins and the Royals like some other teams do. You don't have the luxury of beating up on Miami and Washington and
Seattle, or the best
or the Angels,
the terrible, great LA Angels.
You don't have that, and the Rangers, who are bad too. You don't have the luxury of that in this division. So when you have an opportunity like the Yankees did over the weekend to pick up 3 wins against a crappy team who you really beat the crap out of the last time that we saw them a couple weeks back, you have to take advantage of it. And that's why it goes back to what we were saying before, and that's why it's so frustrating, is that the front office doesn't prioritize what they should be prioritizing, and they don't put an emphasis on winning every game the way that they should. These games matter because when they go back at the end of the season, if the team makes the playoffs but it's a wild card spot and they lost the division by a handful of games, you're going to look back at series like what we just witnessed and say, well, what the hell was that? Because that could have been the difference right there. So
yep. Now, as we wrap things up, I want to do a little bit of rapid fire with you boys. It's May 31st. We'll put the podcast up on June 1st so people will be able to listen to it. And I mean, summer's officially here, even though the Memorial Day weather was kind of trash. So first things first, too early to make a trade, yes or no?
No, but they won't.
No, that, yeah.
Yeah, no. I mean, I want to trade yesterday.
What I'll say is this. What I think they could do is that they could go and try to find another outfielder, not a guy who you rely on every day, but a backup outfielder who actually is an outfielder.
Has been the name that has been kind of thrown around there.
Somebody like that, who's a bench guy, who you can rely on to at least play defense in center. Because we're looking at Tyler Wade and Miguel Andujar and Clint Frazier getting some run out there, which is not a good thing. I don't think any big trade happens yet, but I think that they could go and do something like that, which is a marginal thing that does matter, though. It does make a difference. And that's something that you could look to and say, like, okay, they're recognizing the issue and they're going to try to, they went to try to solve it, instead of what we feel like right now, which is they'll just continue to try out these same guys because they don't think that there's anything wrong with the team that they put together.
You right?
Oh yeah, no, I just said yeah. I want to trade. That's about it.
See, there you go. One guy you got to bring up, Florial or Gittins? Who you bringing?
Gittins, because I'm done with Mike Ford. I never want to see him again.
Yeah, same with Gittins. And he's apparently, again, we're not saying he's a fucking savior of the answer. He might fucking probably suck, but just give him a shot. He's doing pretty good down there. We'll reward the guy. If the guy's doing well, reward him.
He's got he's got a 1.08, a 1.098 OPS in AAA.
Yeah, give him a shot. Why not? Who gives a shit?
It can't be worse than Mike Ford. It can't. It's not possible.
Yeah.
It isn't. Mike Ford is the worst player, I think.
I want Greg Bird back in this.
He's so bad, man. He's awful. And you know what's a cruel, sick joke? Mike Ford literally had that terrible at bat last year in the playoffs. We all hated him then, and now he has to play regular goddamn minutes here. Not minutes or innings.
He's pretty much the everyday first baseman, or gets the majority.
Play
of
the most
time
games there. You said it. So.
Yeah, he gets the majority of the time there, which tells you a lot.
Yeah,
it really does. And for the Yankees, first base has been a black hole since Mark Teixeira retired, and it stinks.
Yeah, I mean, Voit is a good player, but he's been injured a lot. just like everybody else on their team.
Yeah.
You know, it's always worth mentioning that. What's the best way to avoid having issues if you have players that are injured a lot? I don't know. Shore up your bench depth. Foreign concept to the New York.
Who,
Yankees.
who was the first baseman before Greg Bird?
Well, they went
Teixeira
through.
played.
Wait, did Teixeira play till 2016? He did, right?
Yeah,
Oh,
that was
right.
his last. That was his last year.
Damn, he played for a while.
Yeah,
I forgot about
And
that.
then
I hated
Bird
that.
had his injury issues, and then Bird and Voit split time. And
Those 2014 to 2016 teams, I fucking did not like at all.
didn't Chase Headley play some first base for
In
them?
2017.
Yeah, he's dead.
in
Yeah.
2017 he did because they got Todd Frazier to play third.
Yes,
Yep.
So he moved over to first. And yeah, I mean, it's like that's like a move that's like, okay, something that we would like to see right now. I'm not saying that specifically Todd Frazier is somebody we want to see right now, but
But I agree. Somebody like that who is going to be a competent player for them, and truthfully, Cashman loves to go after these guys. But an Odor was a guy that a team was trying to get rid of because he did not hit. Yankees should be looking for somebody who maybe the team's not trying to get rid of, but is low on their totem pole to the point where they're still a serviceable or competent major leaguer. They're not one step away from not being in the league anymore.
yeah, no, I agree. That's a good point. I mean, I'm just looking at like all these players on this team who are supposed to be backups and the amount of games that they've played. It's predictable, but it also is infuriating because it's like, this is something that could have been fixed in the offseason. There's actually a time of year where there are no games being played and teams make roster moves and, you try to make your team better. There's that does exist, but what do I know?
Something called like the off season, right?
Yeah, there's something like that where there's no games and the season ends and guys' contracts are up and teams make trades.
Foreign concept for sure. Well, the Yankees are going to have a 4-game set continue tomorrow against the Rays and the Yankees. We'll see what happens offensively, pitching wise. They'll be able to get all that stuff done. Guys, any final thoughts? E-Ray, if you have a pop of the week for this terrible week.
Don't. I mean, it would be Papa, I guess, but I actually, because he's doing.
Well, you do have one. Here's the thing. You can say this, and it is the truth. Miguel Andujar has been one of the few Yankees who have been consistently hitting during the last several days to try and get something going. And it's nice to see because, as you guys just pointed out, when he gets the opportunity to play, he usually hits.
It's him. You know what? I'll give it to him. If it was like some other player that was having a hot week, I would not.
He is your Papa, man.
I would not, but he is. I mean, his Papa of the week, and he is Papa. And, he's waited all this time to get some consistent at-bats, and he's showing us that he can still hit. Miguel Andujar, Papa, he's my Papa of the week. Congrats.
There you go. Josh, any final words from you?
There's always tomorrow, I guess.
I guess, yeah,
No, there isn't. I don't want to watch again.
That's words to live.
You know what? You know what my final thought is?
Yes.
Go Knicks.
Go Knicks. See, there you go.
Go
Josh
Nets.
will be watching them on Wednesday at the zoo that is MSG. So we'll see. Go Sixers. They're closing it out tonight, though. So they'll have a few games on. So Yankees, they play Tuesday, June 1st, second game of the series against the Rays. And then they'll round that up Wednesday, June 2nd, Thursday, June 3rd, before the Sox come into town this weekend. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So weird to think that this is the first time we'll be seeing the Sox all year. But
And
it
they'll
should be
sweep
fun.
us.
Yep. Well, let's hope not. That's going to do it for us here inside our little Yankees podcast. As always, you can find us wherever podcasts are. We're on TuneIn, SoundCloud, Spotify, as well as Apple Podcasts. And we do live videos and put our videos up on our YouTube page, our little Yankees podcast, also on Twitter at our little Yanks pod. For Josh Levin and Eric Ray Sepulveda, I'm Julian Coltree. Yankees are going to need some serious help, but we'll see what they can do in the next two big series against Tampa and Boston.